everyone, and welcome to this exciting episode of Kelly's Quest. I'm here with a guest that I've had on the show many times, Gerri Cannon, and full disclosure, she is one of my favorite guests I've ever had on the show. She's so well-spoken. She really is a mover and shaker in the transgender community, and things happen because of her in New Hampshire and in other states, if I remember correctly. Gerri, in one of our conversations, you had mentioned that a gentleman from California, Rokana, reached out to you saying, hey, one of the bills that you helped draft, we're actually using that as our template for a similar bill in California.
It was even greater than that. It was a similar bill to change the gender marker on passports.
That's and here we are. We can now do that on our passports. Right. Well, currently, who knows what the future will hold on that. But I always am honored to have you on the show, and I really do appreciate you making the drive down here to Billerica Access TV to be a guest with me. And I think just to start with, it's been a while since we've caught up with each other. I know that you are really into redoing your house right now, and you've been doing some construction on your house, because I feel like a lot of people forget that if you just put your energy out to go do things to make the world a better place, sometimes you forget to take care of yourself. And I was excited to hear that you have kind of stepped back a little bit to take care of yourself, to make sure that you have the energy going forward, because all of us are going to be needed, I feel like, here pretty soon to help move forward this hope of having an equal life with everybody else without hindrances. So what are some of the things that are going on? And thank you once again for being here.
Thank you for having me. Life has been crazy, especially the past 6 years of being a state rep. And the first 5 of those, I was also on the school board in Somersworth. Somersworth is a little community between Dover and Rochester, and it's a sleepy little, the smallest city in the state of New Hampshire. But it's a wonderful place. There's many LGBT people. Some of them are shop owners or business owners, and they're really good. They make me feel comfortable. The place I'm living in is a great place.
Having a home is so important, where you feel safe.
And as a part of just trying to live in Somersworth, I had needed a job, and I ended up working at Home Depot. And I know some people, oh, it's scary. They have such a bad rap, but I'll tell you, when I got into Home Depot, they had a segment on discrimination that we had to read up on, and one of the first people they said that we need to take care of is the transgender community of people who work for us and shop with us. And so they had a good segment on how not to treat someone and how to positively treat someone.
And that was part of the hiring process?
That was part of the hiring process. The starting process is to let all employees know, and we see that once a year. They reaffirm the anti-discrimination policies for all people in the store.
And it must be convenient, because I know you like to do a lot of construction and piddling, I call it piddling around your house to do things. So having access to Home Depot probably helps with some of the remodeling that you're doing in your home.
Well, it helps somewhat. It helped. When I first started, I got a lot of my materials there. We don't get a discount, but at least I'm able to shop sales, because I know when those sales come up. And it's, but I had a kitchen that flooded out, and I needed to rebuild the whole kitchen. When they found asbestos in the floor, it just ripped everything out. And so I built a brand new kitchen, that worked out good. But now I still have my 7-year porch project on the front of my house. I'm still working on that. And I got done with the kitchen. I have sliding glass doors that went out to a little walkway, and I said, no, that ought to be a patio. So I'm doing that. And finding time to do that for myself is important. And I found just to think about the things I need to do and what's important in my life. And so I decided this past year not to run for office again, but I told them I would be back to speak on legislation that was important to me and my community.
I can only imagine that many people were disappointed that you were like, okay, I've got to step back and take care of me. But if you don't take care of yourself, it's hard to take care of other people. So in my world, you did the right thing by stepping back, saying, look, I need to take care of Gerri Cannon. And so far, from what I've just in this short time talking with you this morning, you're doing gangbusters of work. You were saying that you've met someone. You were saying that you have been working on getting in physical health, you're getting your physical health back again. Right. And those things are going to be so important coming up. Well, they're always important, but I feel like that right now we made so many advances for the transgender community since I moved up here to Massachusetts in 2014. I was flabbergasted at the number of accepting, compassionate people I met, and then on top of that, there were laws in place in Massachusetts that kept me safe. And I know in 2018, some people attempted to roll back some of those rights of mine in Massachusetts, and I had to go out there and push myself harder than I wanted to try to make sure that myself, and obviously I didn't do this alone, there was an entire army of people that made this happen, that let us hold on to our rights. And I know in New Hampshire, you worked so hard to make sure that bills were turned into laws that were signed by the governor, even in Republican House, Republican Senate, Republican governor. You still managed, along with your cohort of people, to get these laws passed to help our community. And I have a feeling that as I'm seeing a trend across the nation, organizations are now saying, no, we don't want you to have those rights any longer. We are going to diligently work to take those and strip those away from you.
You're absolutely correct, Kelly. It's a shame this past 2 years in the State House, we fought off 17 bills, anti-transgender bills, to try and limit what we as a people can do in our own state. They wanted to bar people from restrooms. They wanted to bar the workers that build restrooms or clean restrooms. They wanted to keep transgender people out of those locations to keep people safe. But what about the transgender people themselves? How do we keep ourselves safe? How should people be kept safe in the restroom? Those types of questions came up, and those types of things beat it down. Because part of it was identifying one group of people and discriminating against one group of people. And we have a rep that is in the process of trying to decide whether he wants to push forward a piece of legislation that would take gender identity out of our non-discrimination statement in the state of New Hampshire. And so we're trying to make sure that we keep up on why is it important for all of us to have rights, that we all should be treated equal, that we shouldn't have to feel like we're lesser than anybody else. And that's how I have run my life, is I do what I need to do. And I don't hide from anybody. I don't hide in my community. People know who I am. My license plate on my truck says Gerri, so you can't miss it. And I found acceptance from a lot of people in the community I didn't even realize. And when I started working at Home Depot, people would come in to buy things, and it's, "Hi, Gerri, it's good to see you." And I have people that will call and to find out if Gerri's in the building so they can come have a talk with or help them with a project. So I feel wanted. It's a wonderful feeling, and I don't feel too bad. Other than yesterday, I had some guy refer to me as a tranny to one of the cashiers, and I just felt so saddened that someone had to use that term to refer to me.
As a transgender woman, I have been called many horrible things, including a tranny with a liberal agenda. Yeah. And it was said in a very derogatory, aggressive way. And then I'm like, you know, your language isn't very polite, but yeah, I do have, I guess, if being equal, being kind, being compassionate, having the same rights as everyone else, feeling safe in this country. If that's a liberal agenda, then yeah, I guess I've got a liberal agenda, because those are the things that I want. I want my students, as I'm a middle school teacher, very out in my school. Everybody knows, and that's just like you. I'm in a place in my life where I am comfortable being out there to the world. And I know there's plenty in our community that aren't comfortable doing that. And kudos to you all. The most important thing we can do as trans people is be safe.
That's right.
Take care of yourself first. Make sure that you're in a safe place. And if you want to come out, then you can. But yeah, when that person said that to me, my gut instinct, and I didn't actually, I kind of acted on my gut instinct, and I wasn't the kindest of person to them. And I ended up just letting them know that that was uncalled for, that they in fact were not a very good human being for saying that. And I disconnected from them. And I feel like now I need to come up with a different approach. And maybe it's somebody else's job that's not transgender to now go talk to that person and set the record straight for them. Because all we can do, if we lash out, they're going to say, see, there you go. Yeah. If we don't lash out, then people are going to say, see, they're okay with it. So we need other people out there to stand up for us while we're out there living our authentic lives. So I hate that that happened to you, but my guess is you're going to go back to work tomorrow, you're going to help the next customer that needs help, and you're going to be the wonderful human being you are.
I'm going to make an effort. It is a slippery slope, especially at work. If you get really upset with a customer, and that customer's not going to come back, the management is going to look hard at you as far as how you interact with people from the public. And once in a while, people do stupid things. And I realize that if I were to lash out directly at that individual, there might be a problem. I've corrected people who have referred to me as the wrong pronoun. And they'll say, he helped me, and they said, no, she helped you. Oh, I'm sorry. And they correct themselves, because you're so used to, like in a lumber area or building products, it's a guy you're dealing with, and here I was, the manager of those departments, and a female, and that was unusual. Especially when you're wearing carpenter's pants and steel-toed shoes, it's kind of hard to look feminine this way. So
I will always remember the story you told about you were driving your truck, and I think you might have been in Texas or one of the southern states, and a gentleman came up to you and fussed at you for taking the job away from a man, because those are men's jobs and they aren't women's jobs. And your reaction, I don't know if you'd like to share that story again, because I find it fascinating.
Yeah, this guy did come up to me and said, what are you doing here, stealing a job from a man? And I said, I'm out here trying to earn a living so I can live when I go back home. And the guy said to me, he says, you ought to be at home taking care of your babies. And I looked at him and I said, no, my kids are at home taking care of their babies. Some people don't realize that I'm 71 going on 72 years old. And
nobody would
know. Nobody would figure that. And I feel grateful that I can live my life safely. But you're right, we need more people that are not just from the transgender community to come forward to help raise the flag and say, okay, these are people we're talking about. That we're not an item, we're people. We have feelings, and we want to have a future the same as everybody else. And yet there's many different attacks on this incredibly small population. I mean, people have estimated it to be like 1/10 of 1% is the population of transgender people in this country. And it's tiny that we're so sad that we're spending so much time and money against this small group of people. And as I was thinking about this, my own church has encouraged me to talk about trying to get more LGBT people into the church involved. And they've been put a program in to open and affirming churches, which I've been helping for over 20 years now. And most of that is good. It invites people into the church, but it doesn't move outward. And church leadership and pastors need to stand up for the members of their church, or the people in our community that are downtrodden. So it's getting the members of the church to stand up and be public and go to the state capitals and speak out in favor of transgender people and why this is a good thing, and why transgender people are being painted in a bad way. And so I'm going to be doing a roundtable of church professionals in February, or at least the UCC church. And we're going to work on programs to make the church more visible and how it is helping others. And that's a step forward. I've also got the people that in my workplace, I keep them informed about what's going on if they have the opportunity to speak out and share their feelings. And the more we can do that to keep people to stand up and say, you're giving these people a hard time and they're not doing anything to you. They're actually just trying to be themselves and be good members of their community, to stand up and fight for others. And I do that on a regular basis. And we also, just like you were saying, you got to bite your tongue sometime. Sometimes it's like you really want to lash out, and a lot of those people are just looking for those opportunities to say, see, she's a militant transgender person, and I'm not a militant transgender person. I'm a regular, everyday person that just wants to have a life that's equal with everybody else.
And so you were mentioning that there's a rep that is wanting to roll back the non-discrimination protections for gender identity. And I don't think people understand that it doesn't stop there. It is very much a slippery slope. You roll back the rights of these people, it's like, oh, look, we got enough support, we got enough people to listen to us that we were able to discriminate against these people. Who's next?
Right, right.
And I feel like the reason that and I could be wrong, I'm not a political expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like one of the reasons that we are being attacked right now is we are such a small community that when we roar with their voice, it's still a small voice.
It still is.
And I was listening to I think it was in the Senate or the House, somebody was talking with the NCAA president of basketball and baseball, football, all of the sports,
Right.
Charlie Baker, former governor of Massachusetts, about how many athletes are there in the NCAA. There's over 500,000 athletes in the NCAA. Then they asked Charlie Baker, how many of those athletes are transgender? And his answer, Gerri, was less than 10. Less than 10 of us. But somehow or another, those 10 athletes are the problem for all of the NCAA sports in their mind. And I think it's because people are looking for a scapegoat. People are trying to grab power. So trans athletes, bathrooms, those are the easiest ways to send misinformation out to people, to get them to vote for these other people so that they can maintain power and do a money grab. I think that a lot of this power grab has pockets involved with it, deep, deep pockets of people that are like, wait, if we can make them look over here at these trans people, they won't see that we're bilking the American treasury out of billions of dollars right now that are going into our pocket. And how do we help the New Hampshire? Because New Hampshire's, what, 2 miles north of where we are right now?
Pretty much so, yeah.
So how can we help to make sure that this person that's considering this bill understands that that is a losing bid, I guess?
We, this past year in New Hampshire, there were 3 athletes, high school athletes, 3 trans girls. And it was funny in a way. The schools that these girls are in love them and accepted them and want them to participate in sports, and because they are just one of the girls. The girls were disappointed that the girls on these teams were disappointed that the school wasn't standing up for their friend, their other girlfriends in the sport. It's funny because there are sports in New Hampshire where girls are leading boys in wrestling. Would you believe we have female wrestlers on teams in about 3 different communities, and they're as good, if not better, than the boys they wrestle. So it's a struggle. You have to balance things. There was a whole effort to try and get women into sports, and here we are. That women can compete at the same level as a man in many sports. Look at Billie Jean King and. I can't even remember his name, but the tennis match is trying to prove one is better than the other, and the answer is there's not a big difference. We're all pretty much the same, and especially with all the effort that's gone on in the medical field to work with young transgender people, to keep them on the level, to keep them competitive at the same level. A trans girl that's on hormone blockers is no stronger than the girl that's not. It's just maintaining an equal playing field. And the same thing is true in business. We all should be able to compete at the same level in business. And that was actually, for me, getting into the computer industry was wonderful because there was more acceptance of diversity of all kinds. And though I didn't come out immediately, I knew that the companies I worked for accepted me because of some of my differences. And so people didn't make it a big problem until later with mergers of companies and looking to downsize people, and that was really awkward. But the more we can do to raise that there are problems that need to be addressed, especially as people want to change things to make our world unbalanced. There ought to be a balance. And I think part of that is getting management and business to recognize that this is not a big issue, and that supporting a trans person and their allies and their families is just the same as you would be treating an Italian person or a French person or someone whose color is different than ours. We need to accept all of us, and I think that starts with not only our allies and community folks, but business. I talked up with one of the store managers about what happens if we put give stores the option to bar transgender women from the ladies' rooms. And the manager looked at me and said, that's bad for business. We want people to come in and use the store. And if we're blocking one group of people, we're actually blocking a larger group of people. And that keeping the restrooms open to all. And if there are any problems, just treat the problem. And they haven't had a problem yet with trans people using the restrooms. And even the same thing is true, well, we're seeing it in the Capitol. It's with Sarah McBride. Mm-hmm. And it's sad that we're doing stupid things. And people are not working on the right issues. They really ought to be working on the issues that need addressing. And the bathroom it's in the dust. It's not something that we should be putting our time and effort into.
And for those people that don't know, Sarah McBride, a Delaware U.S. House of Representative-elect, will be going into office this year, and she will be the first openly trans person to be elected to the U.S. House.
Yeah.
That's big. And Delaware said, this is the person we want to be there.
Right.
And there's a reason. It's because she's intelligent, she's savvy, she knows how to get things done, she can build bridges, to connect differing people.
Yeah.
And those are the skills that we should be looking for in people. Not people that say, you can't go to the bathroom, you can't go be safe here. Those are the people that are destroying the bridges, that are tearing the country apart.
Right.
And just because, I still think it's because, let's go after Sarah so that you don't see I'm pocketing money over here while I'm at it, or whatever is happening. It's a smoke and mirror show, I think.
I totally agree with you. And this is just a political thing that's happened forever. It's, okay, I'm going to make an issue of this thing over here, and so we're going to fight that out in public, and the stuff that we can sneak through the back door, we'll get that stuff because everyone's focused in on the wrong topic. Mm-hmm. And that's happening now. There is lots of money being made because the tax laws are changing, and the rich are getting richer, and the poor are getting poorer. And we should be focused in on issues like housing and education, and making sure we get the best education for our kids. And that is a broad stroke. I hate to see it when people limit the books in the library. Come on, folks, let's just have them there. Whether somebody goes and looks for them is a whole nother story. Mm-hmm. I know as a transgender person growing up, I looked everywhere for a book that said somebody else was like me. And it hurt that I couldn't find any information about that.
Do you remember the first time you learned that you weren't alone?
I did. It was the advent of the internet in a way, and find a blog and find someone writing a story about who they were and how they got there. And I'm reading this story, and I go, that's my story. This person wrote my story, word for word. All of a sudden, I wasn't alone. Now that I found that there was someone just like me. And that started me into trying to search more and more for people that had the same challenges. And it wasn't about the online porn, things that I ran into all over the place and still do. You go and you can find all sorts of online porn, but that's not me as a trans person. That's not the bulk of the transgender population. It isn't into that stuff. Yep. And there are a few, but they're not doing anything dangerous to anybody else. And that's the big thing, is we want to live and be examples, role models for other people. I think that was the one thing I loved tremendously when I ran for office, is to have a parent come up to me of a trans girl, and she said, "You've been such a role model to my child." And I hadn't even thought about it at the time. I said, "Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that."
Well done on taking a compliment, because a lot of women struggle taking compliments too. So, I mean, that's part of it.
And then the parent said to me, and I became a role model to her because she saw a future for her child.
I try to make sure that I know parents of trans kids, because they're the same things that we're seeing in the world, those parents are seeing. And I think it's important that they know that we're here and we've made it to a certain age in our life, then we're here, we've done it. We're going to continue to live our lives. We're going to continue to be the best versions of ourselves we can possibly be, and continue to improve. And as a transgender athlete, when you're talking about those girls in school, I remember when my school had basketball, and the girls would be 3 girls on one side of the court, 3 girls on the other side of the court, and they would not run full court.
Oh, yeah.
And they would have to pass the ball to the other side. And I never understood why that was until someone explained, well, they were worried that girls would hurt themselves if they ran too much. And now I go play disc golf at a professional level, and this year I played in more tournaments, Gerri, than I've played in forever, for several reasons. One, I love the sport. I love competing against women. And here in the Northeast, there is a women's disc golf tournament circuit. So once a month, there's a tournament somewhere in the Northeast that we can go to and as women compete against one another. And I'm here to tell you, I've come in first place, I've come in second place, I've come in last place. I have the whole gambit of places, and there's no way that I have a competitive advantage over these women, because some days they drill me. Like, I'm dead last, looking like, what the heck happened to me? How did I come in last place? And then I'm like, oh, these are some really solid women that I'm playing sports against. And if everybody was the same, sports would be boring. If every woman athlete was the exact same skill level, there would just be draws all the time. There are women that are taller than other women. There are women that are faster than other women, stronger than other women, that can think through scenarios faster than other women, that have had the luxury of being around sports their entire life and didn't have to pick up the sport as an adult.
Right.
And for me, I was fortunate that I was surrounded by sports people my whole life. So I was taught by a coach of a baseball team who was my uncle, a college baseball coach, how to throw a ball. So now at my age, I can still throw a Frisbee overhand like I'm throwing a ball, but it has nothing to do with my skill level other than I was mechanically taught how to do this appropriately, and I'm able to do it. So even within the community of human beings, there are different skill levels in sports. Otherwise, you wouldn't have my alma mater of Tennessee getting killed by Ohio State in the NCAA playoffs recently, which, good for you, Ohio State. You taught us an important lesson, but if both of those teams had the exact same skill level, the exact same coaches, we would still be playing into overtime until some dumb luck thing happened. But that's not how sports work. We want people to prove that they are better than other people. And my skill level is not better because of any type of biological advantage other than I might be a little bit taller, I might have been playing sports longer, but there's women half my size. There's little bitty kids, 10 years old, that can throw a Frisbee further than me. How in the heck do I have a competitive advantage if a 10-year-old kid can throw a Frisbee further than me? It makes no sense.
And you're right. And the competitive nature is that we put people in buckets. We make it a snap decision, and it's based on your gender. And that's not fair, because many of us have similar skills, male or female. I was in the computer industry for over 30 years, and I didn't put people into buckets, because people of multiple genders, people from multiple countries, worked in the computer environment, and I didn't end up with biases against anybody, because you wanted to know what their skills were, what was their expertise, where were they moving towards, and how could I help them get there. It's a whole different environment. We don't have that type of mentality outside of the international companies. There's people that are in our communities that have hardly ventured out beyond their own counties or their own state. They don't know the breadth of diversity there is in the United States or the world. And that's what we need to draw on is try and get that wealth of people that know that we as individuals, as a transgender person, are just as active contributing to the whole. We're not trying to get anything better than anybody else, and we're not treating anybody else badly. I know of no situation so far that's been flagged as a transgender person accosted someone in a restroom. Yet we put all that effort into blocking people from using a facility that they really need to use, and without being accosted by somebody else. And so we need to do more about how do we break down the barriers and try and work towards a better place. We had been talking earlier about what do you do when someone calls you a name and you just want to lash out? And I think the same thing is true as what you're wearing, or I mean, if someone gives you a negative reaction, our immediate thought is just lash out, just flat. And I think a lot of people are looking for that response from us. They want us to be proactively bad, so they can say, I know that transgender person was bad to me, and that's the way they all are. And that's not right. But on the other hand, it's we need to take the upper hand, the upper hand to be who we are, and let people know, okay, that was unfair, but I'll help you anyways. I'll take care of what you need because it's the right thing to do. And I'm not going to call you a name because that's not going to help us get to where you want to be. And so to try and take that step back is very difficult. I know it. I just want to, and you can tell people, you can tell your friends, this is what happened to me, and go crazy. But especially when we're in business, we have to take that step back and say, is this good for the business that's paying me? And in many cases, it's not. It's not something I want to lash out, because the next time it comes for review, the manager is going to say, that transgender person lashed out at a customer. I'm not sure they should be here, because nobody should lash out at a customer like that, and that would be the right thing. So taking a step back, assessing the situation, and then figuring out how do we change it in legislation. How do we, because right now we're going to have a bunch of legislation over the next 4 years that's going to be terrible. But it can be changed in another 4 years. We can go back in and say, okay, that one was changed, we need to fix it. We need to take that upper hand and say, okay, we're going to go back and revisit these things all over again and make it right. And that's what we need to do. And in those places like, it's fascinating, here in the New England, the only state that doesn't have the best of rights is New Hampshire, which frustrates me. We have some good programs, but I never did make it easy for transgender people in New Hampshire to change their birth record. Some can, but it's a long process, and it shouldn't be so difficult. And that those things need to just make life better for somebody else. It's important to do.
As I do the show, I'm learning that there are lots and lots and lots of trans people that came before you and I that laid the groundwork to where we are now sitting in front of a TV camera sharing this story.
Right.
And I feel like that history needs to be shared with the world more. And I almost feel like we're also such a humble community. It's like, I didn't really do anything. Like, I just did what I had to do to make sure that it worked. When in reality, what we did was well, not me yet. Maybe one of these days, maybe I am, and I don't know. Maybe I'm the one that's being humble now, thinking I'm not making any difference. What I'm doing is I'm giving the people that have made the difference the opportunity to share their stories. And I think of Marissa Richmond down in Tennessee, an openly trans woman who was working with President Joe Biden's team this year on equality. And she's been doing this for a long time. When I finally realized I wasn't alone in the world, she was one of the first people that I learned was out there doing the work. And every year, Tennessee has a Go Meet Your Representative Day. And she would every year organize as best as she could LGBT people to get together to go to the Senate or the House and introduce ourselves.
Right.
And I know that here in Massachusetts, there is Seth Moulton recently said that the reason that Kamala Harris lost was because of you and I wanting to be me wanting to be an athlete. How dare me that I caused an entire election to fall apart, according to this person, simply because I want to go play frisbee golf, disc golf. And the people that have been laying the groundwork for us all along, somehow or another, we need to share. Look, we aren't new to the scene.
Right.
We aren't these group of people that all of a sudden only showed up when Joe Biden was elected and all the other time we never existed. I've been around now for 59 years. I promise you that when I was a little bitty kid, I knew something was up. And I didn't know what that was until, like you, I happened to be, it was a magazine that I was looking at, and there was a professional athlete who was also a doctor, Dr. Renee Richards, who was competing in professional women's tennis. And it was a Sports Illustrated magazine about this person. And I was sitting at a campground in East Tennessee with my family surrounding me, and I read this story, and I couldn't share it with my family. Like, I'm not alone. See, I couldn't do that because my family wasn't there, and still isn't ready to hear my truth. And we have to go find people that are ready to hear our truth.
Right. And that's one of the reasons I get out and speak a lot about who I am and the challenges I faced, but the things I've done incredibly well, and people have recognized me for doing these good things. My church, my community, the trucking company I worked for 5 years wanted me to come back for the next 6 to 9 months. They called me. They said, "Are you ready to come back and work for us? You're one of our better employees." I think I've tried to, in a way, over-excel in the things I've done just to prove to people that this is what I can do. It's not that I'm a transgender person. It's that I'm a person and I have these skills. And I enjoy talking with people to say, okay, sometimes we have the fear of the unknown. We have the fear of standing up for ourselves and letting people know this is who I am and this is what I can do. And you need to think about, if any of us, not just whether you're trans or whatever, you're going to go in for an interview, you put your best foot forward. And I've let even transgender folks and others know, you don't go into like looking for a banking job with jeans and a t-shirt. You dress up for what's appropriate. And the same thing is true for a trans person. You can't go into to a business interview and look sloppy. I hate to say it, girls, don't use too much makeup. But it's just use enough, just to accent who you are and be pleasant and be honest and share who you are with whoever's interviewing. But you have to put it at that level to be equal with the person you're talking with, whether it's getting dressed up in a three-piece suit or a skirt suit, or is it we're going to wear tennis shorts and a shirt because you're going out to talk to somebody about a tennis pro or something, and how you're going to get involved and engaged. You've got to look the part, and sometimes, just what I'm saying is, someone's going to give you a hard time. But if you look like everybody else in that profession, why should that make any difference if you have the same skill set as everybody else in that profession?
I mean, I'm in a profession that is thought of as a very conservative profession. I'm a teacher. And I know that coming down the road, the future president that is about to come into office has said point blank that on day one, people like me will be kicked out of schools.
I've heard.
And that can be daunting. It can be daunting because all I want to do is go help these students that everybody knows that I help. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure that I go do the job the best that I can without these other things weighing on me. So what are some of the things that we as a community, in your mind as a former politician, what would the title, former House of Representatives?
I am now the Honorable Gerri Cannon.
Honorable, I like that.
Because I was a member of New Hampshire's General Court, is where the House of Representatives sits. So I am now the Honorable Gerri Cannon, just like any judge. So
what is some advice that the Honorable Gerri Cannon would have for our community leading into these next 4 years to make sure that we maintain the balance while also keeping ourselves safe and moving forward with this desire of being equals?
I think the best thing we can do is to stand up when negative legislation is being brought forth in our state capitals, is to go and speak out. It's to constructively argue the points, and sometimes that means digging in and getting data and proof. What studies have been done that support our position, and to be articulate. You can go up and say, no, you're wrong, and no, this is what you should be doing. And if you don't have proof points to share with people, you can share. Okay, this study proves this, and this study, because there are studies being thrown out all over the place. So part of it comes down to this study proves that I am who I am, and I'm not hurting anybody else. It's things like the books on this shelf shouldn't be there because this is the topic. On the other hand, if it's going to make some student who's looking for that information feel good about themselves so they can do better in their studies, which is something I was looking for. I was so depressed about who I was, and I couldn't find any information in the libraries. Not the school, not the town. And now there is material, and it's not over the top. It's just, here are other people and their lives, and we ought to learn that there are people that are successful. There are people just like us in well-paying jobs. It's just to let the people know that you'd be treated okay in a trucking company or at Home Depot or even at other national chains, because people recognize people with talent need to be in good positions to help others. So we should be treated just like anybody else, and it's based on our skill set. What can you do? People loved me in my carpentry profession because I was a master carpenter. I could do things that a lot of carpenters couldn't do, and that actually has helped me at Home Depot. I have people come in and ask me how did you do this? And I would explain. Some of it simple times, and some of it is really complex.
Okay, so what I've heard is legislation that comes after us, challenge it, be our authentic selves.
Yep.
What about identity documents and things like that? Is that something that our community should really be trying to get sorted out now, do you feel like? Or is it one of those things that will fall into place if we go after these legislations that are trying to roll things back?
I think protecting our rights is the number one thing, is that we should be on equal playing field with everybody else. Not more than everybody else, it's equal with everybody else. And that's a good starting point, because if you don't have that, then you're fighting for getting something changed on a license or a birth certificate. Then it's another uphill road, because you've still got to sell that equality,
okay,
along with getting things changed. There are some states where it's going to be near impossible. The laws are so tight. It's sort of like I had equated it to beating your head against the wall. It's actually feels better than trying to fight a legislature. So it's also finding key people in the state houses to stand up for you, for an individual, is to provide them with information, support them to raise the flag. And they don't necessarily need to be trans. They can be anybody, anyone who is willing to stand up for you as an individual for any topic, is to find a supporter. It's important to have that backing. And it is being your authentic self. It's being able to stand up and say, this is who I am. And I'm proud of who I am. And no matter what you say, you're not going to change that. I'm not going to change who I am just to please somebody else. I'm going to be who I am and what I need to do to make myself and my family happy, safe, healthy, and happy are the key things. I know in my life I have grandkids, I got kids, I've got a family that's proud of who I am. And it's who I am and what I've been doing for the overall community. You know, you got to love each other. I go back to my days in the 60s, flower children, whatever. We all pushed hard on loving everybody as equals, and we still need to do that.
And speaking of love, I got married in November of this year to a wonderful woman. Oh my gosh, I feel so fortunate that she is a part of my life. And we met because I didn't give up on the sport of disc golf. So she is a disc golfer, I'm a disc golfer. We happen to find a community of people our age that throw discs. And one day I just asked one of the gentlemen, hey, I enjoy competing against 25, 30-year-old people, but you know, sometimes it's nice to hang out with people my age. Is there a group? Is there a community of people our age? Mm-hmm. And he goes, yeah, there is. We actually play every Friday. We travel around Massachusetts. Sometimes we'll go up to Amherst and compete up in New Hampshire. He said, come this Friday. So I was out. I said, okay, I'll go. And I get out there and I'm playing, and I'm on this on the course with this woman. And she goes, tell me about yourself. So I'm like, okay, I'm a teacher. I'm from East Tennessee. And she asks the question, why did you move here? So anytime people ask me that question, the truth of why I moved here is because I'm a transgender woman, and I couldn't figure out a way to be my open, authentic self in Tennessee as a teacher. I moved up here after volunteering at a camp in New Hampshire for trans youth, and I'm like, whoa, these kids are living the dream that I actually want to live. So those kids were my role model for that 1 week. And as I was driving home, I'm like, I cannot stay in East Tennessee. This is silly. I'm not fulfilled anymore here. So I made a post. Someone said, come live with us until you get your feet on the ground and everything is up and running in your life. I did all of that. And lo and behold, because of this disc golf group that I was a part of, I go to this course and I tell her the story of why I moved here as a trans woman. And she goes, I love transgender women. And I'm like, well, you must love me. And she actually asked me out first. This was 3.5, almost 4 years ago. And since then, we've built this wonderful life together. Her family has accepted me fully. 100%. So I lost my family in East Tennessee when I affirmed my authentic self. They were unable to make the journey with me. They were unable to accept me as my authentic self, which it hurts, but that's their path in life. That's their journey that they are on. My journey was one to me being authentic. And we got married. I have now taken her name. And because I want to be part of a family that accepts me. And that community of acceptance is so important for us right now. Like, I really feel like we as a community of trans people need to find allies. We need to find other trans people. We need to, and it can be online. I know there's a lot of online things right now that are bringing our community together in ways that when we were younger,
we didn't have.
We had nothing really to find our community. We were just kind of little ships out there on our own in the ocean. And now we're part of this whole flotilla of people. And being married as my authentic self, being loved as my authentic self, being accepted as my authentic self is the greatest gift that has ever been imparted upon me, ever. And I've got this loving world with me. The people here at ActonTV, they're wonderful to me.
Yeah.
The people at ActonTV, where I started the show, they're wonderful to me. And I get to meet amazing people like you because I was willing to step out of my comfort zone and share with the world my authentic self. It was scary.
It is scary.
Oh my gosh, it is scary, isn't it? When you first do it, it is scary.
Yeah. I remember coming out at TGI Fridays. We'd go to the bar, have a drink or whatever. And the first time I let someone know at the bar that I was a trans person, the bartender said, "And?" Just treated me, said, "You're just another customer, and you look like a really good person. So have a seat, have a drink, and would you like something to eat?" And that was a great start.
That is a great start.
Yeah, it was a great start. And nowadays, I just am who I am. And when I go walk around my community, people say, "Hi, Gerri." It's really kind of cool. I go in to get a sub at a sub shop. "Hey, Gerri, how you doing? What can I do for you today?" And it's wonderful to be accepted in my community. But it's the same when I go out elsewhere. I'm no different than anyone else, and I'm not going to push myself on anybody else. And I don't have to force somebody to say and come up to me and say, "Hi, I'm a transgender person." No, "Hi, I'm Gerri, and I have a story to tell if you want to listen." But if you just want to be who you are, that's the best thing, is being able to go out and do things, shop for things, go have some fun playing golf or bowling or whatever you want to do, and have people that are willing to enjoy time with you. Really important.
It is. So, kind of wrapping up the episode, I know that you are, like you said, you're still active. You might not, you will always be the Honorable Gerri Cannon, and you will always be a voice for the community.
Right.
How can people join you on this journey? Is there a way that they can tap into what's happening with the UU Church? Is there ways that they can tap into what's happening here in Billerica?
Each of the UU churches, the UCC churches, usually on their web pages have usually a list of activities. And some talk about LGBT events or getting involved with Pride or any one of a number of things where people are going to get together. They may flag that there's an opportunity for LGBT people to join and share their voices, and for people to join with them. Groups like the ACLU and GLAD are involved with much of the legislation that's ongoing, and part of what I've tried to do is make sure my name is on a mailing list. So when these bills come and there's an opportunity for the public to speak on a topic, is that we're there, and that information gets shared. Sometimes, like in New Hampshire, you find out about when a session is going to be heard a week before it's heard. So it's finding groups that are monitoring that to keep you informed. It's finding someone like myself. I have people that contact me on the internet. If you look up Gerri Cannon, you'll find my name and information out there all over the place. And it's really good when somebody asks me, "Can I share your information to help someone else?" This happened just the other day. And I said, "Certainly, here, this is my information. Here's my email address, and here's my cell phone number. If they're in trouble, have them give me a call. I want to talk with that person. I don't want them to be a statistic."
Definitely. And I know at times it can feel like the sky is falling. But our community has always been around. We will continue to be around. It's not something that can be legislated out of existence.
No.
And I hope that people now understand a little bit better about what we as human beings are bringing to the world, what we have to offer, what we can do for other people. And I think one of the most important things for us as a community right now is to accept the fact that we need help. We need people to help us to maintain the level of equality that we have at this point, and to make sure that we do not lose it. And even if we do lose that equality, we're still going to be here.
Right.
We're still going to go to work. We're still going to need to eat. We're still going to need to have friends.
Yep.
And so hopefully people out there are seeing this and they're like, okay, I understand it a little bit better, and now I'm wanting to go help.
Right.
Because this is the call to action part, folks.
Yeah.
I'm not beyond saying help. And we certainly do want that help. And any way they can give it, I'm willing to accept it. But Gerri, thank you so much for being here today. I can't even explain how grateful I am for all that you've done and that all that you continue to do.
Thank you for asking me here, Kelly. I'm glad to be able to share some of my stories and my opinions too, but I'm always grateful to chat with you and to be able to share knowledge with others.
Great, thank you. And thank you everybody out there. This is Kelly, part of Kelly's Quest, and hopefully we will see you at the next episode. Bye.